The economy of Albania has undergone a transition from its communist past into an open market economy since the early 1990s. The country is rich in natural resources, and the economy is mainly bolstered by agriculture, food processing, lumber, oil, cement, chemicals, mining, basic metals, hydropower, tourism, textile industry, and petroleum extraction. As of 2014, exports seem to gain momentum and have increased 300% from 2008. Although their contribution to the gross domestic product is still moderate, the export of products per capita as of 2014 is around $1,136. History. The collapse of communism in Albania came later and was more chaotic than in other Eastern European countries, and was marked by a mass exodus of refugees to Italy and Greece in 1991 and 1992. The country attempted to transition to autarky, but this eventually failed badly. Attempts at reform began in earnest in early 1992 after real GDP fell by more than 50% from its peak in 1989. Albania currently suffers from high, organized crime and corruption rates. The democratically elected government that assumed office in April 1992 launched an ambitious economic reform program to halt economic deterioration, and put the country on the path toward a market economy. Key elements included price and exchange system liberalization, fiscal consolidation, monetary restraint, and a firm income policy. These were complemented by a comprehensive package of structural reforms including privatization, enterprise and financial sector reform, and creation of the legal framework for a market economy and private sector activity. Most agriculture, state housing, and small industry were privatized. This trend continued with the privatization of transport, services, and small and medium-sized enterprises. In 1995, the government began privatizing large state enterprises. After reaching a low point in the early 1990s, the economy slowly expanded again, reaching its 1989 level by the end of the decade. Agriculture. Agriculture in Albania employs 47.8% of the population, and about 24.31% of the land is used for agricultural purposes. Agriculture contributes to 18.9% of the country's GDP. The main agricultural products in Albania are tobacco, figs, olives, wheat, maize, potatoes, vegetables, fruits, sugar beets, grapes, meat, honey, dairy products, and traditional medicine and aromatic plants. Oil and gas. Albania has the second largest oil deposits in the Balkans and the largest onshore oil reserves in Europe. Albania's crude output amounted to more than 1.2 million tons in 2013, including 1.06 million by Canada's Bankers Petroleum, 87,063 tons from Canada's Stream Oil, and 37,406 tons by Alb Petrol on its own. 3 foreign firms produced the rest. Tourism. A large part of Albania's national income comes from tourism. Tourism, as of 2013, funds 10% of its gross domestic product, and this is expected to increase. The increase in foreign visitors is dramatic but very low compared to other European nations just like its neighbor Greece, with Greece having an estimated 25 million tourists visiting in 2014. For its economy to grow, its tourist numbers need to increase. Albania had only 500,000 visitors in 2005, while in 2012 had an estimated 2.2 million tourists, an increase of 540% in only 7 years. In 2014, the number of tourists increased by 20% for 2014 as well. Albania is rich in archaeological heritage from a Illyrian, Greek, Roman and Ottoman times, unspoiled beaches, mountainous topography, delicious traditional Albanian cuisine, Cold War-era artifacts, unique traditions, hospitality, low prices, and the wild and peculiar atmosphere of the countryside makes Albania a growing tourism destination for many tourists, mainly from Eastern Europe. Transport in Albania has undergone significant changes in the past 2 decades, vastly modernizing the country's infrastructure. Improvements to the road infrastructure, rail, urban transport, and airports have all led to a vast improvement in transportation. These upgrades have played a key role in supporting Albania's economy, which in the past decade has come to rely heavily on the construction industry. Macroeconomic trends. This is a chart of gross domestic product of Albania in national currency and in US dollars based on purchasing power parity from estimates by the International Monetary Fund. For purchasing power parity comparisons, the US dollar is exchanged at 49 leks. Mean wages were $3.83 per man hour in 2009. Albania is a middle-income country by Western European standards, with GDP per capita greater than the several countries in the region. According to Eurostat, Albania's GDP per capita stood at 35% of the EU average in 2008. Unemployment rate of 13.3% is considerably lower than many countries in Balkans. For example, Serbia has an unemployment rate of 24%. Results of Albania's efforts were initially encouraging. Led by the agricultural sector, real GDP grew by an estimated 11% in 1993, 8% in 1994, and more than 8% in 1995, with most of this growth in the private sector. Annual inflation dropped from 25% in 1991 to single-digit numbers. The Albanian currency, the lek, stabilized. Albania became less dependent on food aid. The speed and vigor of private entrepreneurial response to Albania's opening and liberalizing was better than expected. Beginning in 1995, however, progress stalled, with negligible GDP growth in 1996 and a 9% contraction in 1997. A weakening of government resolve to maintain stabilization policies in the election year of 1996 contributed to renewal of inflationary pressures, spurred by the budget deficit which exceeded 12%. Inflation approached 20% in 1996 and 50% in 1997. The collapse of financial pyramid schemes in early 1997, which had attracted deposits from a substantial portion of Albania's population, triggered severe social unrest which led to more than 1,500 deaths, widespread destruction of property, and an 8% drop in GDP. The lek initially lost up to half of its value during the 1997 crisis, before rebounding to its January 1998 level of 143 to the dollar. The new government, installed in July 1997, has taken strong measures to restore public order and to revive economic activity and trade. Albania is currently undergoing an intensive macroeconomic restructuring regime with the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. The need for reform is profound, encompassing all sectors of the economy. In 2000, the oldest commercial bank, Banca Kombëtare Trajtare (BKT), was privatized. In 2004, the largest commercial bank in Albania, then the Savings Bank of Albania, was privatized and sold to Raiffeisen Bank of Austria for $124 million. Macroeconomic growth has averaged around 5% over the last 5 years and inflation is low and stable. The government has taken measures to curb violent crime, and recently adopted a fiscal reform package aimed at reducing the large grey economy and attracting foreign investment. The economy is bolstered by annual remittances from abroad representing about 15% of GDP, mostly from Albanians residing in Greece and Italy. This helps offset the towering trade deficit. The agricultural sector, which accounts for over half of employment but only about 1/5 of GDP, is limited primarily to small family operations and subsistence farming because of lack of modern equipment, unclear property rights, and the prevalence of small, inefficient plots of land. Energy shortages because of a reliance on hydropower, and antiquated and inadequate infrastructure contribute to Albania's poor business environment and lack of success in attracting new foreign investment. The completion of a new thermal power plant near Vlora has helped diversify generation capacity, and plans to improve transmission lines between Albania and Montenegro and Kosovo would help relieve the energy shortages. Also, with help from EU funds, the government is taking steps to improve the poor national road and rail network, a long-standing barrier to sustained economic growth. Reforms have been taken especially since 2005. In 2009, Albania was the only country in Europe, together with San Marino and Liechtenstein, to have economic growth. Albanian GDP real growth was 3.7%. Year after year, the tourism sector has gained a growing share in the country's GDP. Data published as of July 2012 by the National Institute of Statistics (INSTAT) show the economy contracted by 0.2% in the first quarter of the year, a downturn blamed mainly on the Eurozone debt crisis. The informal sector makes up a portion of the economy, although its share remains unclear due to its secretive nature. Statistics. Macroeconomic indicators: GDP $32.259 billion, GDP per capita $11.700, country comparison to the world, GDP real growth rate 3.5%, country comparison to the world, inflation 3.5%, country comparison to the world, unemployment 13.3%, country comparison to the world, industrial production growth rate 3%, country comparison to the world, agriculture products, wheat, maize, potatoes, vegetables, fruits, sugar beets, grapes, meat, dairy products, foreign trade, exports $3.1 billion, country comparison to the world, imports $5.8 billion, country comparison to the world, import partners, Italy 45.6%, Greece 7.8%, Turkey 7.4%, Germany 5.6%, Switzerland 5%, China 4.2%. Remittances $600 million, current account balance $1.704 billion, country comparison to the world, foreign exchange reserves $2.479 billion, country comparison to the world, energy electricity production 5.201 billion kilowatt-hours, country comparison to the world, electricity production by source fossil fuel 2.9%, hydro 97.1%, other 0%, nuclear 0%. Electricity consumption 6.593 billion kilowatt-hours, country comparison to the world 102. Exports 0 kilowatt-hours, imports 1.884 billion kilowatt-hours. Oil production 24.000 barrels per day. Country comparison to the world. 94 consumption 36,000 barrels per day. Country comparison to the world. 107 exports 748.9 barrels per day. Imports 24,080 barrels per day. Proved reserves 199,100,000 barrels. Natural gas production 30 million cubic meters. Country comparison to the world. 84 consumption 30 million cubic meters. Country comparison to the world. 108 exports 0 cum. Imports 0 cum. Proved reserves 849.5 million cubic meters. Country comparison to the world. Exchange rates like EP US dollar 79.546, 92.668, 98.38 for 102.649, 102.78, 121.863, 140.155, 143.485, 143.709, 137.691.